When was the last time you looked in the mirror and truly felt proud of who was staring back at you? Not just satisfied for a moment, not just relieved you're holding things together, but deeply proud, energized, confident, unshakable. If you can't remember, you're not alone. Most people live years, even decades, trapped in cycles of exhaustion, chasing results without ever tending to the simple daily actions that change everything. The truth is, transformation doesn't begin with massive overhauls. It begins with tiny, deliberate choices that seem small in the moment but compound into something powerful over time. That's the secret no one tells you. You don't become unrecognizable overnight, but one micro habit at a time. You already know the feeling of trying to change your life in big, dramatic ways. You made promises to yourself. You've set huge goals. You've told yourself tomorrow will be different, and maybe it was for a short while. But then life happened. Stress piled up, motivation faded, and those big changes collapsed under the weight of reality. It's not because you're weak or lazy. It's because the human brain is wired to resist sudden, drastic shifts. What it thrives on is consistency, small steps that don't trigger overwhelm yet slowly rewire how you think, act, and feel. That's where self-care micro habits come in. They're not flashy, and they won't get applause from anyone else at first, but they build you into someone stronger, calmer, sharper, and more resilient than you've ever been. They are the invisible foundation of people who seem unstoppable. Imagine the version of yourself who wakes up with energy, who moves through the day with focus, who feels at peace instead of scattered, who doesn't break under stress but bends and bounces back stronger. That version of you is not a dream. That version of you is built through small, repeated acts of self-respect. Here's the real gift. These micro habits take less time than you think. They don't demand hours of your day. They demand intention. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, and suddenly your life begins to shift. Your mind gets sharper. Your body feels lighter. Your heart feels stronger. And soon the people around you start noticing. They see a glow in your eyes, a calm in your presence, a power in your energy. That's when you become unrecognizable. Not because you faked it, but because you created it. Stay with me because in the next moments, you'll learn the 5 self-care micro habits that can change everything. Not theories, not vague ideas, tangible actions backed by psychology and proven by real lives transformed. If you've ever wondered why some people seem to rise while others stay stuck, the answer is here. And if you've ever doubted that you have what it takes, I want you to know this. You already have the strength. You already have the capacity. You only need the right habits to unlock it. This isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming the real you, the version of yourself that's been waiting quietly for you to finally choose them. And once you do, nothing will ever be the same again. Close your eyes for a moment and feel the tension in your body. Notice the weight on your shoulders, the tightness in your chest, the quiet whisper of exhaustion in your mind. That weight is not weakness, it's a signal that your body and mind are asking for something small, simple, consistent. And yet, how often do we ignore it? How often do we push through, thinking discipline means neglecting ourselves until we break? True strength doesn't come from ignoring your needs. It comes from honoring them in the smallest, most deliberate ways. Those tiny acts, seemingly insignificant in isolation, create a ripple effect that transforms every layer of your being. Imagine starting your day by choosing one micro action that serves you before anything else. It could be a single deep breath taken with intention, a brief moment of stillness, or a small stretch that awakens your body. On its own, it seems inconsequential, almost laughable. But when practiced daily, it tells your mind something powerful. I matter. My body matters. My energy matters. The brain registers this as a pattern of care, rewiring neural pathways to prioritize your well-being. Suddenly, focus sharpens, stress diminishes, and the energy you've been craving begins to emerge naturally. The transformation doesn't demand hours of sacrifice. It demands consistent, conscious attention. The beauty of micro habits lies in their subtlety. They slip into your day unnoticed, yet their impact is profound. A 5-minute habit of mindful breathing doesn't just calm your mind, it strengthens your emotional resilience. A brief moment of gratitude doesn't just lift your mood, it rewires your perspective to notice opportunities instead of obstacles. A single intentional action toward your body, your mind, or your heart might feel like a whisper, but over weeks and months, it grows into a roar, signaling to the world that you are present, powerful, and in control of your life. You are no longer drifting. You are steering, even if the steps are tiny. This is where most people fail. They look for change in extremes and dramatic leaps, invisible signs of transformation. But those who become truly unrecognizable understand that mastery begins in the unseen moments, in the quiet dedication to small daily acts that build confidence, clarity, and strength from the inside out. You do not need to overhaul your life overnight. You need to take a single step today and then another tomorrow, each one reinforcing the last until you emerge as someone who feels unstoppable, someone who knows their value and refuses to settle for anything less than what they deserve. Every micro habit you adopt becomes a signal to your subconscious that you are worth investing in. It rewires your self-perception and your energy. It shifts the way you experience the world and the way the world responds to you. You are no longer defined by exhaustion, distraction, or uncertainty. You are defined by presence, focus, and intentional action. That is the power of small, deliberate self-care. It is quiet, invisible, and yet it builds a life that is unrecognizable to anyone who only knew the old version of you. It is the bridge between who you are today and who you are capable of becoming. And the first step is entirely in your hands. Every thought you have shapes the life you live. Every belief you hold defines the actions you take, the energy you carry, and the opportunities you notice. Most people underestimate this. They let negative self-talk, doubt, and fear dictate their days, quietly eroding their potential. But here's the truth. Your mind is not your enemy. It is a tool, and like any tool, it can be honed, trained, and refined. Micro habits are the sharpening stones. They do not demand heroism, only attention. A single deliberate thought, a conscious affirmation, a moment of focus can reshape your mental landscape more profoundly than hours of distraction or effort spent elsewhere. Every time you choose a thought that empowers you, you are rewiring your brain to align with the person you want to become. Consider the power of awareness. Just pausing for a few seconds to notice how you feel, what you think, and how your body responds can be revolutionary. That pause is a micro habit. It doesn't take hours. It doesn't cost money. It doesn't require validation from anyone else. Yet in those few seconds, you reclaim control. You assert your presence. You choose alignment over autopilot. That small act sets the tone for the rest of your day. You are no longer swept along by the currents of habit and circumstance. You are actively directing your life, moment by moment, thought by thought. That is the invisible power that compounds into extraordinary results. When you begin to treat your mind as sacred territory, everything else shifts. Stress loses its grip, decisions become clearer, confidence emerges naturally. The smallest acts of self-reflection and self-direction create a feedback loop of empowerment. You realize that change is not something that happens to you. It is something you cultivate. Each micro habit you practice becomes a signal to your subconscious. You are capable, you are worthy, and your life is worth shaping with intention. That is why people who invest in themselves quietly, persistently, without fanfare, always outpace those who wait for dramatic moments of inspiration or external validation. They understand the compound effect of tiny, deliberate actions, and they harness it relentlessly. Your body, your energy, your emotions, and your thoughts are all interconnected. Nurturing one influences the others. A 5-minute morning routine of movement, a brief period of reflection, or even a conscious choice to pause before reacting rewires not just the mind, but the body and spirit together. You begin to notice patterns, interruptions, and drains on your energy that once went unseen. You start saying no to what diminishes you and yes to what fuels you. That awareness becomes strength. That strength becomes presence. And presence is magnetic. It draws opportunity, clarity, and alignment into your life without effort or pretense. It is the natural result of consistent micro habits, small acts of care, and intentional self-mastery. You are standing at the edge of a transformation that feels invisible at first, but is unstoppable once it begins. Every thought you choose, every breath you take with intention, every moment of self-care is a brick in the foundation of a new identity. One day, you will look back and realize that the person you once were, the one weighed down by fatigue, doubt, and distraction, is gone. In their place stands someone unrecognizable in the best possible way, someone powerful, resilient, clear, and unstoppable. That shift begins with a single act, repeated, focused, and intentional. until it becomes your nature, and your nature becomes your power. Your energy is the most valuable currency you have, and yet so many of us spend it carelessly. We give it away to distractions, negative people, and tasks that drain instead of elevate. But energy is not infinite. It is cultivated. Every micro habit you choose is a deposit into an account that compounds daily, shaping the quality of your life. A single conscious choice to move your body, to hydrate, to breathe, or to pause is more than a momentary act. It is a statement. I value myself. I protect my vitality. I'm committed to becoming someone unrecognizable, someone radiant, resilient, and unstoppable. Consider how easily exhaustion seeps into your decisions, your mindset, your mood. When your energy is low, your focus fractures. Your patience diminishes. Your motivation evaporates. But energy, when nurtured intentionally, becomes an unshakable foundation. Simple, consistent micro habits restore it. A short walk in the morning, a few conscious stretches, a deliberate act of nourishing your body. These are not trivial. They are the engines that power clarity, creativity, and emotional stability. The mind cannot operate at its peak if the body is neglected. Every choice you make in caring for your physical state reverberates through your mental and emotional life, giving you strength you did not know you had. Energy is also tied to presence. The more you invest in these small, intentional acts, the more grounded you become. You start to notice life in sharper detail, the subtle signals of opportunity, the nuances of human interaction, the quiet beauty that often goes unnoticed. Presence is a magnetic force. It attracts clarity, confidence, and alignment into your life. People begin to respond differently. Your actions feel deliberate, your words carry weight, your decisions are informed by awareness rather than impulse. This is the invisible power of energy cultivated through micro habits. It is not flashy, but it transforms everything. You begin to move through life with authority, not arrogance, with calm, not chaos, with purpose, not distraction. The compounding effect of energy-focused habits is profound. 5 minutes of stretching, 10 deep breaths, a conscious pause before responding. These small choices accumulate into a mental and physical reservoir that shields you from the erosion of stress and doubt. Over weeks, months, and years, these moments add up to transformation. You become someone whose vitality is unmistakable, whose focus is sharp, whose presence commands attention without effort. The person staring back at the mirror no longer feels familiar because the energy radiating from within has reshaped everything on the outside. You have become unrecognizable, not through force, but through consistent care. Every act of self-care, every micro habit is a declaration of intent. It tells the world, and most importantly yourself, that you are not willing to settle for mediocrity, that you will not allow distraction, fatigue, or doubt to dictate your life, that you choose presence, resilience, and transformation. This energy, once cultivated, becomes unstoppable. It feeds courage, fuels action, and strengthens clarity. It becomes the foundation for the unrecognizable version of yourself, the version that no longer doubts, no longer waits, and no longer compromises. And the first deposits into that energy account are completely within your control, waiting for you to make them, moment by moment, choice by choice, until everything changes. Your environment shapes you more than you realize. Every surface you see, every sound you hear, every interaction you have, these are not neutral forces. They either lift you or drain you. And yet most people surrender to their surroundings without awareness. They let clutter, noise, and chaos dictate their energy, focus, and mood. But transformation begins when you take ownership of the space you inhabit. When you create small, intentional rituals to organize, cleanse, and structure your environment, you send a signal to your mind and body. You are in control. You are the architect of your life. And that sense of control ignites confidence, clarity, and motivation unlike anything else. Micro habits in your environment are deceptively powerful. A clean desk, a deliberately arranged room, or even a simple act of making your bed each morning may seem insignificant. But these small gestures have psychological weight. They tell your subconscious that order is possible, that discipline is achievable, and that you respect yourself enough to care about the spaces you inhabit. The brain craves signals like this. It responds by releasing focus, calm, and motivation, creating momentum for bigger decisions and bolder actions. You begin to notice that when your environment is in alignment, your mind naturally follows. The small habits create an invisible framework that supports every other aspect of your life. The ripple effect is immediate. When your surroundings are intentional, stress diminishes. Decision fatigue decreases. Your energy no longer leaks into chaos and disorder. You feel lighter, freer, more capable of taking on challenges with clarity and determination. Every object you touch, every space you inhabit reinforces a pattern of respect, discipline, and intentionality. This is the power of micro habits applied to your physical world. They are quiet, invisible, yet profoundly transformative. They create a sense of mastery over life that no external circumstance can take away. Your mind will notice these subtle changes. Thoughts that once spiraled into overwhelm now find structure. Emotions that once fluctuated wildly now settle with ease. You start to experience moments of calm, clarity, and presence that feel revolutionary, even though the actions that created them were small and simple. That is the hidden power of micro habits. They transform the invisible layers of your life before the visible results even appear. By tending to your environment, you are tending to your mind, your energy, and your resilience. You are cultivating the conditions in which an unrecognizable version of yourself can thrive. Every deliberate adjustment, no matter how minor, compounds over time. A habit as simple as clearing your space at the end of each day accumulates into focus, confidence, and calm that radiates outward into every decision and action. Your environment becomes a mirror of your internal transformation, reflecting the discipline, care, and intention that are becoming second nature. The person you once knew weighed down by distraction and clutter begins to fade. In their place stands someone purposeful, empowered, and unshakable. Every choice you make to shape your space is a choice to shape your life. And through this consistent, quiet effort, you begin the process of becoming completely unrecognizable, not to others, but to yourself. And that is where true transformation begins. Your mind thrives on clarity. When thoughts are scattered, priorities unclear, and intentions undefined, it becomes easy to drift through life reacting rather than creating. The weight of uncertainty erodes confidence and energy, leaving you stuck in cycles of hesitation and frustration. But clarity is not something that appears magically. It is cultivated, built habit by habit, moment by moment. The simplest micro habit, a deliberate pause to decide what matters most, a single written intention for the day, a conscious choice about where to direct your focus, can cut through mental fog like a sharpened blade. When practiced consistently, these small acts of clarity become a foundation for unstoppable momentum. Every decision you make without clarity leaks energy, focus, and time. Your mind is forced to juggle multiple paths, weighing them unconsciously even when they don't serve you. That drain may feel invisible at first, but over days and weeks it compounds, leaving you exhausted and frustrated. Micro habits designed to create mental clarity act like a reset button. They simplify your mental load, allowing you to conserve energy for the actions that truly matter. A 5-minute ritual to outline priorities, to breathe, or to reflect is a commitment to your future self. It signals that your attention is valuable, your time is sacred, and your purpose is non-negotiable. The psychology behind this is undeniable. Our brains crave structure, pattern, and focus. When you create micro habits that reinforce these needs, your subconscious begins to align with your conscious goals. You start noticing distractions before they derail you. You recognize opportunities you would have missed. Your decisions become precise, purposeful, and aligned with your vision of yourself. That precision creates a feedback loop. Clarity generates action. Action reinforces clarity, and each small success fuels the next, building unstoppable confidence and self-trust. Clarity also transforms your emotional landscape. When the mind is organized and purposeful, stress and anxiety diminish. You stop wrestling with indecision and start moving with intention. Your energy shifts from reacting to responding, from surviving to thriving. Even small acts of reflection and focus create a sense of calm that feels revolutionary in a world that glorifies chaos and constant motion. That calm is not passive, it is powerful. It allows you to step into challenges with courage, confront obstacles without fear, and navigate life with unwavering determination. Your internal environment becomes a sanctuary of focus, resilience, and strength. Every micro habit that sharpens your mind compounds, building a version of you that is deliberate, aligned, and unshakable. By taking control of your attention, you reclaim ownership of your life. The person who once felt overwhelmed, distracted, and uncertain begins to fade, replaced by someone precise, empowered, and fully present. That is the essence of transformation. The clarity you cultivate is not just a temporary state. It becomes a defining trait of the new you. Every small choice, every moment of focus, every micro habit practice consistently builds the unrecognizable version of yourself. A version that acts with intention, thinks with purpose, and moves through life with unstoppable momentum. Your emotions are not obstacles, they are signals. Every surge of frustration, doubt, or fear is your mind and body telling you something important. Most people try to suppress these feelings, to push them aside or distract themselves until they fade. But true transformation comes from embracing them, understanding them, and responding intentionally. Micro habits that cultivate emotional awareness and regulation are among the most powerful tools for becoming unrecognizable. A moment of pause to identify how you feel, a deliberate choice to breathe through tension, or a small practice of reframing negative thoughts can shift your emotional state instantly. When practiced consistently, these tiny acts build resilience, emotional intelligence, and inner strength that ripple through every aspect of your life. The power of emotional micro habits lies in their cumulative effect. One conscious breath in a moment of stress may seem minor, but repeated hundreds of times, it rewires your nervous system. It trains your body to respond to pressure with calm instead of panic. One small choice to reframe a negative thought or focus on what you can control may feel insignificant in isolation, but over time, it reshapes your habitual thinking patterns. Your mind begins to favor clarity, optimism, and action over doubt, fear, and distraction. Emotional mastery is not a gift reserved for a few. It is the result of consistent, deliberate practice in small, manageable steps. When you prioritize emotional self-care through micro habits, you also strengthen your capacity for connection. Your reactions become deliberate rather than impulsive. You communicate with intention, listen with presence, and respond with empathy. Relationships, both personal and professional, begin to shift. People respond to you differently. Your calm, measured energy becomes magnetic. You become someone who inspires trust, respect, and admiration, not because you demand it, but because your inner alignment radiates outward. This is the invisible power of emotional microhabits. They change not just how you feel, but how the world perceives you, quietly reshaping the reality around you. Emotional resilience also fuels courage. When you can observe fear without being controlled by it, when you can feel doubt without surrendering to it, you gain the freedom to act decisively. Micro habits of emotional awareness create a feedback loop of confidence. Each small act of recognition, pause, and response reinforces your ability to handle bigger challenges. Every day you practice mastering your inner world, and the external world begins to bend in response. You are no longer a passenger in your own life. You are steering, consciously and powerfully, toward the person you are meant to become. Every deliberate practice of emotional awareness compounds, creating a foundation of strength that is unshakable. The person you were, reactive, uncertain, easily drained, begins to fade, replaced by someone measured, resilient, and grounded. That is the transformative power of micro habits. They create lasting change, layer by layer, until the version of yourself that emerges is unrecognizable even to you. By investing in your emotional self-care, you gain clarity, presence, and unstoppable momentum. You become someone who faces life fully, embraces its challenges, and steps into your potential without hesitation. The unrecognizable version of yourself is built not in grand gestures, but in these consistent, deliberate, and deeply empowering moments of self-mastery. Your focus determines the trajectory of your life. Every distraction you allow, every moment of drifting attention dilutes your power. Most people underestimate this. They think they can multitask, skim through life, or wait for clarity to appear on its own. But focus is not something that happens. It is something cultivated. Micro habits designed to sharpen attention are not about discipline alone. They are about reclaiming control over your mind. A deliberate 5-minute session to eliminate distractions, to center on a single task, or to practice mindful attention may seem small, but it compounds into extraordinary mental clarity, productivity, and presence. Each moment spent intentionally strengthens your ability to direct your energy where it matters most. Focus is a muscle, and like any muscle, it grows stronger with repetition. When you consistently engage in micro habits that reinforce attention, your mind becomes less prone to wandering, less vulnerable to distraction, and more aligned with your intentions. You begin to notice opportunities, connections, and solutions that previously went unseen. Tasks that once felt overwhelming now feel manageable. Your energy is no longer scattered. It is concentrated, purposeful, and potent. The small daily choices to practice focus build an invisible infrastructure that supports every other aspect of your transformation. The clarity you gain in these moments radiates outward, shaping your decisions, actions, and results. The psychology behind focus is powerful. Your brain craves patterns and repetition. By embedding micro habits that train attention, you create predictable neural pathways that favor concentration and sustained effort. Over time, the effortless ability to engage deeply becomes your default state. You stop reacting to external chaos. You stop feeling pulled in 100 directions at once. Instead, you operate from a place of centeredness and precision. Focus is not merely about doing more, it is about doing what truly matters with maximum impact. It becomes the tool that turns intention into action and action into transformation. Focused attention also strengthens emotional resilience. When your mind is trained to remain present, stress and overwhelm lose their grip. Challenges no longer feel like insurmountable walls, but like puzzles to solve with clarity and calm. Every micro habit that hones your focus reinforces confidence in your ability to navigate life. You begin to trust yourself, trust your decisions, and trust your capacity to handle whatever arises. That trust becomes a self-reinforcing cycle, creating momentum that cannot be broken by fleeting distractions or temporary doubt. Every act of concentrated attention compounds. A single micro habit practiced daily, a focused breath, a moment of deliberate observation, a small task completed with full presence, builds a mental landscape that is sharp, resilient, and unstoppable. The version of yourself who once felt scattered, indecisive, and drained begins to fade. In their place emerges someone unrecognizable in strength, clarity, and presence. By mastering focus through consistent, intentional micro habits, you align your mind, energy, and actions with your highest potential. You become a force that is deliberate, powerful, and impossible to ignore. The unrecognizable version of yourself is not born from luck or circumstance. It is sculpted through relentless, quiet, and purposeful attention to every small choice you make. Your body is the vessel through which every thought, every action, and every intention flows. Neglect it, and your mind struggles, your energy falters, and your clarity diminishes. Your transformation begins not with extreme exercise routines or restrictive diets, but with micro habits that honor your body consistently. A brief stretch in the morning, a deliberate moment to stand tall, a conscious choice to hydrate, or a simple mindful walk. These are not trivial actions. They are signals to your nervous system, your cells, and your mind that you are worthy of care, capable of strength, and committed to becoming someone unrecognizable in vitality and presence. Every small act of physical self-care compounds over time. The body adapts not to sudden extremes, but to consistent, intentional input. Each micro habit, repeated daily, trains your muscles, your posture, and your energy levels. It rewires your nervous system to respond with readiness rather than fatigue. It aligns your physiology with the clarity and focus you are cultivating in your mind. A body that is cared for supports a mind that is sharp, emotions that are balanced, and energy that is resilient. When you honor your physical self in these micro ways, you are building an invisible strength that radiates outward, shaping your performance, your confidence, and your presence in every environment. The connection between body and mind is undeniable. When your body feels strong, energized, and aligned, your thoughts are clearer, your decisions more deliberate, and your emotions more regulated. Micro habits that strengthen this connection allow you to act from a place of power rather than depletion. You move through challenges with a grounded presence. Stress impacts you less because your system is trained to absorb pressure without breaking. Your energy becomes a force, not a fleeting spark, and you begin to operate at a level of consistency and resilience that others mistake for natural talent, when it is actually the result of deliberate, tiny choices compounded over time. Physical microhabits also create momentum for confidence and self-respect. Each small effort reinforces the understanding that you are worth investment. The simple act of standing taller, of moving with intention, of honoring your body's needs communicates to yourself and the world that you take your life seriously. That internal message manifests externally. You carry yourself differently, make decisions more decisively, and attract opportunities and relationships that align with your new energy. The unrecognizable version of yourself begins to emerge through these consistent, subtle, yet powerful actions. Every micro habit you embed in your physical routine compounds into transformation. The person who once felt drained, sluggish, or disconnected from their own strength begins to fade. In their place stands someone who radiates energy, resilience, and vitality. You are no longer at the mercy of circumstance or fatigue. You have built a foundation that supports every other layer of your life: mental clarity, emotional resilience, focus, and presence. By committing to small, deliberate acts of physical care, you are shaping a body that reflects the unrecognizable version of yourself: strong, vibrant, aligned, and unstoppable. Every moment of care becomes a brick in the foundation of the new you, one micro habit at a time. Your thoughts, emotions, and physical state are deeply connected. But there's another layer that defines your transformation: your habits of attention and presence. How often do you move through your day on autopilot, reacting to notifications, interruptions, and fleeting impulses? How often do you allow the mindless pull of distraction to steal your energy, your focus, and your clarity? Micro habits that anchor you in the present moment are among the most powerful tools for becoming unrecognizable. A deliberate pause to breathe deeply, a single moment of mindfulness before speaking, a brief scan of your intentions throughout the day. These actions seem small, almost invisible, but they rewire your nervous system, train your attention, and cultivate a state of grounded awareness that becomes second nature over time. Presence is not a fleeting feeling, it is a skill, and like any skill, it is strengthened through consistent practice. Every micro habit that grounds you in the present sharpens your perception, heightens your awareness, and magnifies your ability to respond instead of react. You start to notice the subtle cues in your environment, the nuances in people's expressions, and the small opportunities that previously slipped by unnoticed. The mind begins to operate with precision, filtering out noise and focusing on what truly matters. In this state, your actions are intentional, your words carry weight, and your energy flows without resistance. Presence is the bridge between who you are today and the unrecognizable version of yourself. The psychological impact of presence is profound. The brain thrives when it can predict patterns and align attention. Micro habits of mindfulness and intentional awareness create a framework for clarity, calm, and focus. They reduce stress, sharpen decision-making, and reinforce emotional resilience. Every time you pause, observe, or intentionally redirect your attention, you are sending a message to your subconscious that you are in control of your experience. That sense of control compounds over time, transforming anxiety into calm, chaos into order, and distraction into deep, purposeful action. Presence becomes a force multiplier, amplifying every other habit and action in your life. Micro habits of attention also cultivate self-respect. When you consciously choose to be present, you honor your time, energy, and potential. You send a signal to yourself that your inner world matters, that your choices are worthy of attention, and that you refuse to allow life to be lived unconsciously. This self-respect is magnetic. It changes how others respond to you, how opportunities present themselves, and how you experience the world. The small, repeated acts of presence accumulate into an invisible power that shapes your life in ways that are subtle yet undeniable. You begin to radiate focus, calm, and authority simply by existing in alignment with yourself. Every moment of mindfulness, every pause to anchor yourself compounds into transformation. The person who once drifted through life scattered and reactive begins to dissolve. In their place stands someone deliberate, powerful, and unshakable. By practicing presence through consistent micro habits, you are not merely changing your behavior, you are changing your very state of being. You are cultivating an unrecognizable version of yourself, one who moves through life with clarity, strength, and unwavering focus. Each tiny act of awareness builds a foundation of inner power that no external force can shake. And through this practice, the transformation becomes inevitable, unstoppable, and profoundly visible in every aspect of your life. Your mind is a garden, and every thought is a seed. What you nurture grows. Neglect your mental landscape, and weeds of doubt, fear, and negativity take root, spreading quietly until they dominate your perception of reality. But micro habits of mental self-care are the tools that cultivate a fertile, thriving mind: a deliberate 5-minute reflection, a single affirmation of worth, a moment to reframe a negative thought. These are not trivial. They are the daily irrigation, sunlight, and pruning your mind needs to flourish. Each small action strengthens your mental resilience, sharpens your focus, and reinforces a belief in your own capacity to transform. Mental self-care is not about avoiding challenges. It is about preparing your mind to face them with clarity and strength. Every micro-habit practice consistently rewires neural pathways, building patterns of thought that favor possibility over limitation, solution over problem, and action over hesitation. When you make even the smallest choice to focus your thoughts intentionally, you are asserting control over your inner world. That control compounds daily, creating a mental state where uncertainty no longer paralyzes you, where self-doubt no longer dictates your actions, and where clarity emerges naturally from consistent, deliberate practice. The psychology behind this is simple yet profound. The brain is plastic. It adapts to repeated experiences. When you embed micro habits that reinforce constructive thinking, attention, and reflection, your mind rewires itself to default to strength, resilience, and positivity. Even under pressure, your mental training allows you to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Emotional turbulence loses its power, challenges become opportunities, and your capacity for strategic, confident decision-making grows. These tiny, intentional acts build an internal fortress that supports every other aspect of your transformation, amplifying the effects of physical self-care, focus, presence, and emotional resilience. Mental self-care also reinforces self-respect and self-trust. Every time you pause to assess your thoughts, every moment you consciously redirect negative patterns, you are sending a signal to yourself that your mind matters, that your inner world deserves care, and that you are committed to the version of yourself that is unrecognizable in strength and clarity. This self-directed attention cultivates confidence that is not contingent on external approval or circumstance. It becomes intrinsic, unshakable, and increasingly visible to everyone around you. The power of a disciplined, cared-for mind is subtle, yet magnetic. It radiates authority, calm, and capability, drawing opportunities and alignment into your life without effort. Each micro-habit of mental care compounds into profound transformation. The version of yourself who once felt scattered, overwhelmed, or defeated begins to fade. In their place emerges someone deliberate, resilient, and powerful. By investing in your mind through consistent, small, and intentional acts, you are sculpting the unrecognizable version of yourself, one whose thoughts support your actions, whose clarity shapes your decisions, and whose presence commands attention and respect. Mental self-care is the quiet engine that drives all other layers of transformation, ensuring that every choice, every habit, and every moment of intentional action builds toward a life that is not just different, but extraordinary, unstoppable, and unrecognizable.